Date was 5th April, city Islamabad, and time was 8 in the morning. Our story started from an unknown phone call, which was received by Kaif Jamal this morning. Kaif slept the whole day these days, like every other unemployed entrepreneur, and sits in front of laptop from afternoon till 5 a.m. searching for work. He was in deep sleep this morning when his phone started ringing, and he attended the call with absent mind in his sleep. The number was unknown, and the voice on the other side of the phone was dry. It was an old man who was telling him that his boss just arrived from Europe and wants to meet him. He had a job offer for him. "Who is your boss?" asked Kaif. "Mahir Farid," replied the old man. "But I don't know any Mahir Farid," replied Kaif. "You will come to know him," replied old man. The old man cut the call. 1.5 hours later, Kaif was in an Uber heading towards the location sent by the old man. In his way, he started searching for Mahir Farid from Google. There were a lot of people on Google of this name, but only one Mahir Farid from England. Mahir doesn't have any social media account. Kaif only found a Facebook page in which his name was mentioned, and there were a lot of comments from the residents of his community. Kaif start reading those comments with interest. Kaif comes to know that Mahir Farid was the son of a famous businessman, and he had some psychological issues. A few years back, his parents admitted him to a ANSTI tuition, and he stayed there under observation for some time. Kaif wasn't feeling comfortable after reading the information, but he was shocked after what he read next. He read someone gossiping about Mahir Farid, that his father wants to exclude him from his wealth and wants to transfer his wealth to Mahir's sister. But before any legal proceedings, his father died in a car crash and his mother and sister left the country. Surprisingly, Mahir was discharged from the tuition and comes back being the owner of his father's wealth. This gossip was 2 years ago. Kaif wanted to search more, but couldn't find anything about this man. He reaches the hotel where the meeting was fixed. For an instant, Kaif wanted to go back, but then he thought, what if he was any other Mahir Farid? Then he decided there is no issue to meet him once. After a few seconds, he was in lift, which was taking him to 4th floor. He looked at himself in the mirror, thinking he might have dressed well for this meeting. Kaif was a handsome man, but he was dressed roughly. His hair were rough, he was dressed in an ill manner, his white joggers were so dirty and his blue jeans wasn't ironed. He reaches the 4th floor. The building was very beautiful, and its ambiance gives an impression of 5-star hotel. He was thinking that why would a person living here needs him? Other than being an unsuccessful entrepreneur, he was also a part-time photographer. People usually hire him for Instagram photos, but there were a lot of other photographers like him than why Mahir called him. The room's door was opened by the same old man on the phone. He was probably Mahir's manager. His hair were silver and were properly gelled, and he was wearing a brown pant coat. With unmanaged heartbeat, Kaif enters the room. It was a luxury suite. There was a strong smell of lavender-scented candles and jasmine flowers. A man was sitting on the sofa beside the window, with his one leg over the other. He passes a smile to Kaif. He was dressed in a gray pant, white shirt, charcoal waist, and his one arm was on sofa's side. His cufflinks were shining from the sunlight behind. He was more handsome than what Kaif thought of him. His hair were properly gelled, and he was a clean-shaved man. His eyes were brown and shining. Kaif was highly impressed by his looks. He was completely different from what he thought of him. "Welcome, Kaif. I was waiting for you," said Mahir Farid. He points towards an empty sofa, offering him to sit. "You're Mahir Farid for sure," replied Kaif. There was a glass table in between both of them, and there was a leather-covered diary on that table. There was something in the room which was getting on nerves. The only sound in the room was of Mahir's nails, which he was tapping on the sofa side. Kaif decided not to be impressed by his personality. "For what purpose you wanted to meet me?" Kaif asked. "What do you think? What was my purpose of meeting you?" replied Mahir by looking in his eyes. "I am a photographer and people hire me for photography," he replied innocently. "Only photographer?" Mahir replied by nodding his head. "You're also an unsuccessful entrepreneur who started many businesses but failed. You also did a lot of jobs." Mahir said Kaif was shocked. He looked at Mahir and then at the old man. "How do you know so much about me?" Kaif asked in a state of shock.